Hello everybody, this is September from the Hanure server. In this video I'm going to update some of the previous work I've done with weapon crafting and Erenor upgrading cost. So what I have done here is I've taken the work that I've done prior to 3.5 and post 3.5 and I combined those spreadsheets to make one current super accurate spreadsheet that everybody can use. I felt it was important to update the Erenor weapon upgrading sheet I did prior to 3.5 to make it current. And since I am doing that, I may as well add the other work that I've done about the cost to craft Erenor weapons in and of themselves. In the end, you now have access to a spreadsheet that will work for any server type, EU Fresh Start, North American Fresh Start, North American Legacy, or EU Legacy, and additionally I have now added a switch so you can select your weapon type.
Go ahead and click through a whole bunch. Yeah, you'll see like Spreadsheet. He goes into great detail for what, and then he crafts as well. So he goes into great detail for what the numbers are, and then what he's been experiencing, and he gathers a lot of data for you guys. Hey, what's up, Jake F the dog? How's it going, man? So yeah, there's a ton of stuff for you to learn from Erd. I mean, look at this. This is,
and if you tune into Erd's stream, he's always super informative and helpful.
Yep. His spreadsheets are not up to date about Erenor. Better visit Omnom's website for actual spreadsheet for Erenor. Oh, we got some competition. Well, Omnom didn't come in and submit their spreadsheet, so maybe next time, Omnom, huh, yeah. Mark? Come on.
First, let me talk about keeping this work current. I have heard in the past some complaints that said my spreadsheets are not current. And while that is somewhat true, all my work is designed to be used by you personally. In such a case, you are required to keep the values of the materials accurate based on the server you play on. So my spreadsheets, they're adaptive in nature, and they require very minimal input to keep them up to date. All you have to do is simply download the spreadsheet. A link will be in the description, and then update your server type information based off of your current auction house values that you're seeing. Remember, auction house values, much like MMORPGs in general, are dynamic. The values that I put here, even as recent as yesterday, are bound to be slightly different than what you would see if you search for them right now. Even if you're not spreadsheet literate, don't worry. You don't have to spend any money or know anything about how to make a spreadsheet to actually use my spreadsheets. The only thing that you need to know is what server type you play on, where to download a spreadsheet program, and from there it is as simple as searching your auction house for the 30 items or so used to craft and updating the values in the materials cost tab, which we'll talk about here in a minute. If you can type a number, you can keep your spreadsheet updated from now until the crafting of upgrading Erenor process actually changes. In which case, if that happens, I will issue an update to the core functionality of the spreadsheet myself. Okay, so if you don't have a spreadsheet program yourself, you actually have two options right now for free versions. The first option would be OpenOffice from Apache. This is a free program, and it's very similar to Microsoft Office. Simply go to the link that's in the video description, download the program, and you're all set. There is absolutely no cost, no subscription, no trial. Simply put, it is free. The next option is to download my spreadsheet and use it on your Google Doc account. So all you have to do is download my spreadsheet from Google Docs and then upload it or save it to your account. That will give you a 100% access to my spreadsheet so you can always keep it up to date. You may ask at this point, why do I have to do all that just to use the spreadsheet? Well, the answer is simply this. Because the way Google Docs works, it won't allow anybody without specific access to my spreadsheet to change any values in there. So if I were to give anybody or everybody access to this spreadsheet, they could change any value you or I don't agree with, or they could completely obliterate the spreadsheet and post a bunch of nonsense in there, thus ruin it for anybody who finds it at a later date. What is more is, as I said, my sheets are adaptive. In that, I will give you some choices that you need to make. These are going to be in drop-down options. You will see in my upgrade cost tab, you'll see a select a server and select a weapon type. Because those values are in a drop-down list and you must change the drop-down list to update the spreadsheet, you actually need access to the spreadsheet to change those values. All right, so I hope that addresses the complaint I've heard about them being outdated, and I hope it helps you understand how to use this information freely and perpetually. I put a lot of work into these spreadsheets for everybody's benefit. This sheet alone, that we're going to look at here in a minute, represents over 35 hours of my personal time and work, and that is to say nothing of the original work done by omnom.io. All that being said, let's take a look at what I've done and how you can use this spreadsheet. Okay, so this spreadsheet has 7 tabs on it in order: overview, material cost, upgrade cost, weapon cost, experience values, weapon ranks, and weapon regrade calculations. The very first tab is just the overview tab, and this holds a general use information and gives credit and references to the YouTube video that you are currently watching. The next tab is the material cost tab. This holds the value for crafting and regrading materials on every server, along with the experience cost to upgrade an Erenor weapon at each specific tier. This is the only sheet, the material cost tab, you will ever need to change values in. The next tab is the upgrade cost sheet. This is actually a main sheet, and here you will find out what weapons you should be feeding your Erenor at each specific tier, and that's based on the cost to XP ratio. You know, how much does it cost per XP per weapon type? This sheet here is going to save you hopefully a lot of gold and a lot of time and focus you in the right direction if you have an Erenor weapon or planning on making one here in the future. What is more, it will quickly tell you what the current value of an Erenor weapon is at the basic rate and how much you can expect to pay to upgrade it to the next tier all the way to Erenor Divine. To use this sheet, you simply start by selecting your server type up here at the top. Then select the weapon type, and you'll notice that the values for the server type and weapon type will automatically be pulled into this tab, and it will show you what you can expect as you work on your Erenor. So for example here for the EU Fresh Start, let's say we're making a two-handed weapon or bow. You can see that the cost to make, or the value of the basic Erenor, at the top here in these rows 3 to 9. From there I have color-coded and separated upgrading the weapon all the way to Divine. So how that works is here in column A to D, the color-coded is green. You'll see all the various weapon options you could use to upgrade from basic grade to grand. You'll find the total XP required in the top here of the columns. In this case, it's in cell D13. And then I will show you various weapon types from Apprentice all the way to Obsidian Tier 1, with the ultimate goal being that what we want to find is the cheapest option to get it to the next tier. And I have actually already done that, and I've highlighted the ones that I have found in a blue and white color like here. So in this case, you'll see that the cheapest way to upgrade an Erenor from basic to grand is by using apprentice weapons purchased directly from a weapon vendor. It will cost you 592 gold, and you'll have to buy 102 of them. So from there, you would go to the next column, which here is column F through I. This is going from grand to rare, highlighted in blue, or outlined in blue, I should say. Once again, I list all the various weapon options that you have, the XP, the cost, and how many weapons you'll need. Ultimately, what you end up is finding out is, in this case, Obsidian Tier 1 is the cheapest option with a cost of around 1,400 gold. And again, that's highlighted here in white and blue. You'll notice that you need 27 obsidian weapons to achieve this goal. I mean, that's pretty helpful information, right? So from there, you just continue grade by grade until you get to the desired end result. In the end, what you see is a lot of information, but the big takeaway here is that what you'll primarily want to focus on is using Obsidian Tier 1 weapons and eventually Ethereum weapons to get yourself to a Divine Erenor, if that's your end goal. Okay, so the next tab is the Weapons Cost tab. This is the tab that shows you the cost to craft all the weapons from Artificer all the way up to Erenor. And this uses data from the Material Cost tab as well as information from the Regrade Calculation tab to achieve this goal. All you have to do is scroll horizontally to the end of the row to see the cost to craft an item at each tier. If you have watched any of my previous videos, you'll see that this tab is pretty familiar. In fact, it's just imported and updated for this spreadsheet. It is pretty straightforward and, in my opinion, very helpful for determining what something costs to craft. This can help you make a decision if something on the auction house is a good deal or perhaps not. So, for example, here we can scroll down to the Magnificent to Ethereum, and to find the actual cost to craft the inferior weapons, all we have to do is scroll over here. We go down to column Q, and again, this information is from the EU Fresh Start, which I selected on the material or on the upgrade cost tab, and that selection does carry over to the spreadsheet, so you only have to select it once. Anyway, you can see that the cost here is between 1,400 and 1,600 gold to make an inferior weapon, depending on the weapon type. So if you find them cheaper on the auction house, it's probably a good deal if you're in the market. What is more is then at this level, we're also looking at the cost to craft Ethereum basic grade, and many times, the items for sale on the auction house are not at basic grade. They're regraded to a higher tier than this, which would add additional value to that purchase. The next tab is the Experience Values tab. These are the values that various weapons will give you when you feed them into your Erenor weapon. I have used the most accessible and reasonable ones to obtain when I created the Upgrade Cost tab. So you're not going to see every one of these weapons listed here. It'd be ridiculous to do that. But this shows you the exact information on how much each weapon is worth. It's got Hassela, it's got Jolas, it's got Serpentis, it's got Missong, it's got all that stuff in here. So you can use this information to see how much value various items are actually worth. Like, for example, let's take the Syrian Oath or the Cold Anguish drops from Morpheus and Rangora. You can see that those are roughly worth the same amount of XP as a heroic illustrious weapon. The reason I say heroic is because those only drop at heroic when you get them. Okay, so with that information, we know that the value of a illustrious weapon is listed on the weapon cost tab. So we pop over there and we look here in column S, and we can see that it takes about 200 gold to craft a illustrious grade weapon, and an illustrious tier weapon, and that is at the basic grade. So to get it to heroic, we would have to add the cost to regrade a illustrious item to heroic, which is done in the weapon regrade cost or regrade calculation tab, which we'll talk about here next. which, so if we go over here, we find the value is about 160 gold plus the original 200 gold. That gives you a value of 360 for those particular weapons. That's if you were to feed them into Erenor weapon, that's about what they're worth, and it's actually pretty close to what they sell for on the auction house. Kind of funny how that works, right? You can do this with other weapons listed here, even the Apprentice weapons, Missong weapons, or even the Thunderwing Titan drops. The next tab is the Weapon Rank tab. This tab basically just lists the weapons from the most powerful to the least powerful. The best way to think about this tab is it's a top 25 list, if you will. This should help you determine how much effort you need to put into an Erenor weapon to get it to where you're currently at or better than what you're currently using. So, for example, let's say you have an Ionad Divine. You'll see here, based on this list, you need to get to about Erenor Arcane to match the power of what you currently have. And if you want something a little better, you need to get that Erenor to Unique, and you'll have a better weapon. The last tab is the Weapon Regrade Calculations. This is where I show you the cost to upgrade items or regrade items all the way to Celestial, or in the case of Ionad, I had to take one up to Divine. This information was originally done in a previous video, but since then I have updated some of the values and added additional tiers of regrading. Initially, this information appeared in my cost to craft Erenor weapons video. In that case, I only needed to take, for an example, an apprentice weapon to Grand, because that's all I needed to make the artificers. Now, regardless of the grade required to upgrade it, I have included information on regrading all the way to at least Celestial tier for all the crafted weapons, including Obsidian tier 1. Okay, so that's this spreadsheet and how to use it for the most part. So if you have any questions about this, I know it's a lot of stuff here, but it's hopefully laid out simple enough with the information that I've given you to understand. I believe this information should be extremely valuable, and it can help you determine many, many more things than the little bit that I've talked about here in this video. It is at this time I want to point out a couple things to you guys. First of all, the Jola shields are used as a potential upgrade option, but unless you select the one hand from the drop-down list, you won't see the information, or it'll show error or something weird. And that is because I know Jola shields will work as feeding materials to upgrade Erenor shields as well. But so what happened was, the way the regrade calculations are done, I actually had to group the shields with the instruments, because upgrading a shield or instrument costs the same amount, so those got grouped together in that case. Secondly, I didn't get a good value for the Jola shield on the North American Fresh Start servers. There was absolutely none available when I made this video made the spreadsheet yesterday, and that was despite me asking in chat pretty much all day. So I ended up putting my best guess in here. I put 300 gold. So you'll need to update that if you're North American Fresh Start. Again, I also need to point out you must download the spreadsheet to use it properly. Please do not request access from Google Docs. I will not give it to you. This sheet is intended for everybody, and I cannot risk the chance that I give somebody access and they change something that I or somebody else doesn't agree with. Download it and use it yourself. And the last thing that I need to point out is I only did the Obsidian Tier 1 weapons. I only showed that I did the Obsidian Tier 1 weapons, but in fact, I have looked at Obsidian Tier all the way to Tier 5, and I can tell you that absolutely, without a doubt, those are not worth using, so I did not bog down the data by showing you those options. Okay, well, there you have it. This is another long yesterday worth of work. I actually was streaming on Twitch for 12 hours while I made this. Some of you may have caught it. Some of you guys are probably eagerly waiting for me to post this video. But it's a lot of work, guys, and it's a lot of information that I have to go through, and I have to do my very best to make sure that it meets my YouTube goal, which is to provide you with a video that is not only informative but also helpful. So if you feel like I have achieved that goal, please remember to like and subscribe on your way out. And if you have not yet done so, please consider showing your support for my work by following me on Twitch, Twitter, or even a small donation on Patreon. Until next time, September saying, be well.